Attention! This video is sponsored by Snowman Rescue.
Hello, it's Minitron, and today we're going to take a look at the Autoheaven. I'm gonna cover its structures and the main buildings, and I'll explain you how to both loop them as a survivor and how to chase survivors in them as a killer. You need to remember that this only applies for M1 4.6 meters per second killers, because for other killers with chasing powers these loops play out completely differently. And well, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first structure on the list is truck, and survivors can use both of these staircases to get upstairs and drop down this window. This truck has not enough distance to safely guarantee survivors a fast vault, so they usually will mid vault, but they can also fast vault, and we're gonna talk about it later. So as a killer, I propose you just go in and ignoring the survivor who is vaulting the window. And at this point, you look at the window. If they fast vaulted or slow vaulted, you can just go around and hit them before they make it anywhere. If they're not vaulting, you can go back there and threaten them, so they will vault, and then you double back and go here. And if they are not vaulting at this point, you can probably launch to the window and get a hit on them. The only thing that survivors can really do here to outplay the killer on this structure is to fast vault this window while you're trying to lunge at it. If the survivor is very smart and good, he can actually get a fast vault on this window, and you will be left swinging to this window, losing a lot of distance, while survivor is already vaulted and he's going wherever he wants on the map. So these things you need to recognize. You cannot really play around this. I mean, you can vault after the survivor, but you will lose distance. You can double back all the way here, but you will lose distance. So maybe you need to expect it. Maybe you need to still bait it and go a bit further, so they won't have the momentum to do the fast vault, and then you still double back. So only in this case, survivor has a chance of doing this, but only very few survivors know how to actually do this. So mostly this structure is favorable for killers. Okay, so the next building is an excavator, and it has a window, a pallet, and a short and a long side of the loop. And survivors can also run upstairs here and drop using this window. Now let's talk about the window drops. I would say that this window is not very safe. So if the killer is chasing survivors from this direction and they go for the window, the killer can just pass by and hit them if the survivors just vault the window mindlessly. So most survivors won't do that, and you have to come up with other plan. And the other plan is still go here to check if they're slow vaulting or mid vaulting. Then you understand that they are still upstairs. Now they can try to stay over here to still get the fast vault. This way you can counter it by staying over here, moonwalking a bit, hiding your red light, and then turning, and you'll probably hit them before they make a fast vault. If the survivor is staying right here, they will get a mid vault. So still by moonwalking you can get a hit on them. And the last thing the survivor can do upstairs is to stay over here. So the thing is that from over here, survivors cannot see through this wall, so they'll stay around the corner to see if you're coming. As a killer, first you go here, then you go backwards, and you threaten to go for them. Now at this point, it is absolutely mind-gameable. If the survivors just vault the window, you can double back and hit them normally before they make it somewhere. If the survivors will just come to this window and not see you coming, if survivors will just go to this window and stay over here looking backwards if you're coming, they will lose their momentum to fast vault this window, and you can still go and hit them as if they were waiting at the window. You can expect what the survivor will do here, and you'll have around a 50% chance to understand if you need to double back and if they're gonna vault, or if they're gonna wait here and you need to hide your red light and come from the upper hand. So it's pretty much 50-50 chance that you get them here. So it's not safe for survivors, and you can mind game it if you understand what survivor is doing. So this window is not very safe for survivors. Either is this loop. This loop has very high walls, and its vision is a bit limited, so if you can get a hit if the survivor is only looping that short side, and you can do it just with little moonwalks, with little double backs, and the regular things. Much safer for survivors though is the excavator itself, because not only survivors can wait around these corners looking both ways and react to the side where you're going and make it to the pallet anyway. Also, there are little holes under the excavator between the main body of excavator and its wheels, and if survivors lower their camera, they can see under the excavator wherever you're going, so you're not gonna catch them with any mind games at all if they're just smart and they're just turning the camera down to see under the excavator. They can pretty much tightly but surely see your body, and that is bad. That is bad, and for that reason, excavator is pretty good for survivors, but they need to understand this. They need to loop the bigger side, and if they go for the window, you can mind game them. So keep that in mind and use that knowledge. Okay, so the next structure on the list is a normal bus, and this building is kind of goes for both sides. The survivors have a pallet that spawns either here or here, and the both variations are pretty good but not safe, because the killer can mind game both this and this. The survivors have the vault here, so their preferable chasing direction is over here, and if the killer is just trying to go around this might work, but the survivor will waste a lot of time and then drop a pallet and then make it somewhere if you start breaking that all-mindedly. So as a killer, I recommend you chasing survivors in this direction if possible, so that survivors cannot go for the window easily. If you have a little distance on survivors and they're about to make it to the pallet, they cannot really go for that window, because you will just see that and hit them before they make it. So if you chase in this direction as a killer, then survivors will have to drop this pallet early, and if you break this pallet, this structure becomes practically worthless, because survivors will only have this window, which is not that safe and good. That would be almost it, but I also want to show you that there are little holes in here, through which both survivors and killers can see each other, and also there is obviously a hole here, and also there is a hole right under that window through which survivors can see the killer if they try to double back or mind game them, and survivors can catch the glimpse of the killer through all of these lines and use that to loop the efficiently and not get mind gamed if the killer is trying something smart or crazy. And if you use those little holes as a survivor, you can guarantee that you at least will be not mind gamed in this style. You will have to force the pallet quickly, but at least you will be moderately safe and okay here. As a survivor, you can also try to vault the window unexpectedly. Some killers won't expect it. If you have the bigger distance on them and they're looping you in this side, you can try to go for this window if the killer is still here and you are already here. You can go to this window without them noticing it, and they will just assume that you're going to the pallet. They'll go here, and at this point you could fast vault this window unexpectedly and start looping in some other direction, which can throw some killers off, and you might as well try that. And that's probably it about the normal boss. Okay, now we get to the fun boss, and this boss is better for survivors than the normal boss, mostly because of the window being in the middle, and it's pretty easy to use. This building still has holes over here and over here, through which survivors can look and spot the killer to not be mind gamed, but it has no holes here, and we're gonna come to that later. It's gonna be a crucial factor. This pallet still can spawn over here, but the main difference is that this window is over here. Okay, so you can fast vault this window easy from this side, but from this side is not as easy, but it's still possible. Some survivors over here, they try to play only around this window, and this could be a partial mistake, because this whole side of the loop, you can see through it. You can see over it because these objects are low, so staying on this side of the loop is preferable, while playing around this window is risky. But there are two crucial positions in trying to vault this window, and you stand basically here and basically here, and you wait for the killer to come. But this can be mind gamed from this side, and it is hard to vault from this side, and it's gonna be the major drawbacks of playing only the window itself. So if the survivor is staying over here and he is watching if the killer is coming, if the killer is gonna hide his red light, if he's expecting survivors to wait there, they can come around this corner, but it will still take them a while, and survivors can wait till the last second to make sure that the killer is committed in fact, and vault this window fastly. But it is hard because of this little barrel to vault it fastly, so you can run into some difficulties. If you mid-vault this, the killer will come and hit you, and there is no second thought about this. But what happens if you wait here? It's worse, because it can be actually mind gamed. This distance is not as good, and yes, you're guaranteed the fast vault, but if the killer is expecting everything and he is not showing his red light till the last second, and then he turns, he can lunge at the window no problem and get a hit even if you fast vault this. So for that reason, I do not recommend staying around this side of the window, and just if the killer is over here, I recommend just running to this safe spot. And if you're not good at fast vaulting, you should also run to this side if the killer is over here. Because from this side, from this superposition, you can see over all of this, you can see over all of this, and wherever the killer comes, you can make it to pallet, you can make it to window again, and this is very good. Also, from this window, you can easily see the killer here and here over the walls, and that's why I recommend you to mainly play this side, and use this just like a very, very safe vault. And while the killer is here, there is no problem for you. But if the killer comes through one of the longer sides, you should just run to the opposite side and to this superposition again, because again he can mind game you from this high wall side. You can go through this window 3 times before it gets blocked, and then you can drop a pallet, and even if the killer breaks a pallet, this structure remains good because it can waste the killer's time a lot, even later. And that's probably it. For that reason, this boss more favors survivors than killers. Now let's talk about the Azarov resting place. We're gonna be switching to main buildings now. The Azarov's main building is very simple. It looks like shack, but it's more rectangular. It basically has one window and one breakable wall, and only one entrance into it. So as a survivor, you can stay over here to make sure you get a pass vault if the killer is coming over here. As a killer, you can apply standard shake mind games like showing a red light and then going the other way, or showing a red light, faking going the other way, and then come around and hit them. On different level of skill survivors, different mind games will work, and you can get hits here. But if you are struggling and survivors are too good for you and they're getting fast vaults too conveniently, and you cannot mind game them, you can always break this wall and just starting to go around them. And at that point, this just becomes a shack with a dropped pallet, which you can just bloodlust around it. The window will get blocked eventually, and you will get a hit no matter what here. But for the killers with special attacks, or if you're just not having troubles chasing around the survivors, I do not recommend breaking this wall actually, because you will be giving survivors an escape route. So for example, as a huntress, as a demogorgon, if you ready up your shred, your hatchet, and you are ready to throw them over here, survivors have only one exit, to exit through the window. And if you break this wall, they can fake the window and then go towards the broken wall, make it to the window again, and fake it, and you swing to it, and you get irritated, and you lose the game, basically. For that couple of killers, I recommend not breaking this wall, and in any case, this remains still a very weak main building, which benefits killer definitely. Okay, so let's go to the main building of Wretched Shop. And this building has one blocked window and one open window, which switch between the variations. It always has a pallet connected to a circular bunch of objects, either here or there. And it also always has a breakable wall right here. But depending on the position of window, you might and might not want to break this wall. And let's understand why. So usually when the killer comes from downstairs to pressure the generator, which spawns here pretty often, the survivor can go through this window and escape this building and go to another loops. And if the killer will just try to go for them before they make it to the window, the survivors can always sit in this safe spot, and when they see the killer is committed, they can go. And if the killer then just double backs, survivors can vault this window backwards. And this will become strong because it takes you a long time to get around it, and it becomes pretty annoying and gives survivors exit route, which you do not have because you need to go around this every time. And for that reason, I recommend breaking this wall. With this wall broken, you can go after survivors and you'll only need to go around a little obstacle, and then you can probably hit them before they make it anywhere, so they have to pre-run in other direction. Let's look now at the other window variation. If the window spawns here, they have no escape from here, obviously. Breakable wall is still up, and the only option they have if you pressure this gen is to exit by this or pre-run somewhere. And if they exit by this window, you can assume it and just go around this obstacle easily. And if they do it late, you might even beat them to this pallet. If the pallet is here, you just get a hit. And that's very good, and for that reason, not creating survivors another alternative escape routes is good, and you should not break this breakable wall at all. Only thing you should watch out as a killer is if the survivors go to this side and they wait for your approach. So if you come from this side, survivors might be able to make it here with a medium vault and you will hit them. So this is preferable for you, but do not make the mistake of going here and giving the survivors the fast vault here, because or the fast vault here. If the window is there, it's also good, and you should just not chase in that direction. And as long as you don't do that, it's pretty good. If you're not sure if survivor is gonna make it to the vault, if you even gonna go through this side, then you can just hang around here, wait till you get Bloodlust, and with Bloodlust you definitely hit them before they make it to any windows, and this is a guaranteed hit because they're cornered. And with that, I think it's pretty much it about the structure. It favors the killers more. Sometimes you'll have to break the wall, but not always. Also, it has some relatively weak pallets, which you can mind game around, and that's probably it about the Wretched Shop. Okay, let's go to the main building of Blood Lodge, and this is basically the upper floor, and this is the lower floor. And you basically run to the staircase from here to here, and there are only 2 escapes from the higher floor, to drop down here or to drop using this hole, but we're gonna talk about later. Downstairs there is always a loop spawning around it. I believe it's either here or here, it's never facing the windows. The alternative window variation over here always comes with a breakable wall over here, and then this breakable wall just becomes a passage, and this window becomes blocked. And in any case, it is pretty good for survivors until the wall is broken. And let's see why. If the killer is over here and the survivor is over here trying to vault this window, you can easily do it, because if the killer just comes around here, you can always back off, because this wall is just pretty long. You can safely vault backwards and inwards, looking at the killer. You can also see the killer in little holes near the blocked window, and use that to your advantage. So the killer will have to either make this window completely shut by the entity, or killer will have to break this wall, after which the survivors can still run him and still get some fast falls, but the killer will at least be able to go around it and make something happen quicker. If the window is spawning here with this window blocked, then this wall is up again, and if the killer is coming from here, and Survivor is waiting at this window. He cannot fast vault it easy, but he will still see through the window if the killer is doubling back, so he can double back through the window anytime, and you can mind game him a bit like this. But if you get stuck mind gaming here for some time, they can just run to some other loop while you're not noticing. So, and if they do that, and you are, for example, inside, then you'll have to go around all the long way, or which I recommend you is breaking the pallet. After this breakable wall is broken, you can mostly play around this window easily, and you just go around it and go around it, and you can maybe fake this and then go this way and then circle over here, and this just becomes much more mobile for killer, which benefits him. So I recommend breaking these walls. It's not as necessary, and you can still get hits here without breaking them, but breaking them will surely make you get these hits faster, although it will slow you down. So it's up to you to decide. And the second floor, I should admit, is not that great, because when survivors fall, they get slowed down, they drop over here. They can try to go for the window, but while they slow down, the killer is hopping from upstairs with no slowdown at all. The killer can also swing over the corner to turn around faster and easier. And the killer has a lot of control if you go upstairs, so I don't really recommend it in case if you don't have balanced landing or something to help you out. And it's probably it about the Blood Lodge main building. It's kind of good for survivors because it forces killers to break walls sometimes, but after that it becomes pretty nice time waster and nothing more to it. Okay, and the last one on the list is the main building of Autoheaven. This building is a little nightmare for the killers, and let's talk about why. Okay, at first it has 4 pallets into the fixed locations, which are different types of strings. This pallet on top can be used just to get forward while looping this, and you can, as a survivor, pre-drop it to just force the killer either go around it every single time or just go ahead and break it. This pallet could be good if you're playing around this window and the killer has broken this wall. This pallet is always good because it connects to a pretty good loop, and survivor can hardly be mind gamed there. And this car is even smaller, so it's very hard to mind game a survivor in there if you're a basic killer. Now, this building has 2 variations of windows, and the first one is here with a breakable wall over here, and the second one is here and a breakable wall next to it. And this window changed this building quite a bit, and this breakable wall is the strongest part of this building, and you will mostly have to break it, not dependent on variation, but in any case. Either it is here or here, it is always next to the window, so survivor can loop you both ways, going through that window or through this window. And if you just go after him and vault the window, you will suffer. You will be looped on this building forever. I just say that you must break it immediately, or this nightmare becomes even more nightmarish. Now, you also need to keep in mind that there are 2 breakable walls on this side, and I don't recommend breaking them always. And there is also a opening area, which if you do this generator here, this passage opens up and creates more opportunities for looping this building. So let's talk about what happens if the window is spawning over here. How the survivors could loop this building if this wall is broken and every other wall is up. Well, survivors can go over here, vault this window, curve around it, and go like this. At any point of the corner, they can see the killer. And from over here you can see the killer here, from over here you can see the killer there, and it is pretty good for survivors. If you chase them, however, in this direction, yes, they'll be forced to mid-vault, but even after that, if you are not close, then they maybe can make it again here, and then when you finally catch up, they'll use this pallet or this pallet, and this is the main issue with this building. Both of these windows can get very annoying, and after they waste your time a lot, they can also drop the pallets and then go back there again and use another pallet, and that's 4 of them. And also there are breakable walls which you have to break always. But okay, let's talk about what happens if this generator becomes done to this window. It's actually becoming easier for survivors to loop this, because they can just curve around this and the loop becomes shorter and they can see the killer from both points here, and from here they definitely make it to the window in any direction you will chase them, so they are becoming even more safe after this generator is completed. And if this passage is open, this could actually be beneficial to break one of these walls. And this way the survivor will just have this a long wall with a window inside of it, and it's not very safe to loop it. And in that case, you're gonna be fine. But what if the wall still stands here? Well, I don't recommend you breaking these walls then. Sometimes you are fooled into breaking these walls for mobility when you try to pressure this gen, but in reality, it's better to come from here when this passage is locked without breaking any walls, because the survivor is trapped in here, and if he already dropped the pallet, he gets a hit no matter what. And it's better to trap survivors without any escape options, because in other case, if you break this, they get an escape option and you cannot corner them in there. But what happens if you break this wall while trying to chase around this window? Well, before survivors had to go all the way around to go for this window. Now they can maybe just play this like this, and it doesn't really help you because they can still play around this window. And if here they are risking for you to catch up to him, here they can just switch to this pallet, maybe fast vault this window when you don't expect it, and it's not gonna be so good for you, and you're just wasting time breaking that wall. So pretty much the same happens if you break this, but it's even better for survivors. Because this part of the loop is longer and they can see you coming from any way, and you yourself create safe window, which is bad. And for this case, if the window spawns here, I don't recommend you breaking any of these walls. However, if this passage again opens up, then you can break it. So you need to be very mindful of what pallets and walls have you broken already, and you have to calculate a lot when you're chasing in this building. Now let's talk about what happens if the window actually spawns here. Of course, you need to break the breakable wall next to it, and as a survivor, you would want to vault this, and then go around and vault this again, and this way you're fast vaulting it, and everything is good. So as a killer, you would want to force survivors this way, so they cannot fast vault it, or even if they somehow manage, it's just not worth it, because the killer can easily go around and hit them. And in that case, they'll have to use the pallet or the other pallet or the other pallet, and this window won't be such an issue. The main issue is if this window spawns here, the survivors can go from the middle of the map, which is always located there, and quickly jump into this building from this particular side, and you're not always going to be chasing them from there. So they can, after that, go around this and try to go for it again and loop it again and loop it again. Now, if this wall opens up after the generator is complete, this actually becomes worse for survivors, because even if they vault this window from this side, the killer can just go around and they can vault this, but it's not going to be safe because the killer is chasing them. He can double back always. He can hide his red light and hit you around the corner. And this window doesn't become good on itself, but it's still good to get inside this building and maybe get to use some of these pallets. Well, what about the breakable walls in this iteration? Well, if this passage is open and you can go through it, there is absolutely no reason to break any of these walls. And you will just be giving survivors more escape options and wasting your time while breaking those walls. But if you, for example, want to play around this pallet and loop around the car, this might be worth it to break this wall to somehow run around it, but it's doubtable. So what happens if this wall is not open? Should you break any walls here? Well, of course not. Of course not. If you break, for example, this wall, and the survivor gets just this superposition when he sees you from here, when he sees you through window, and he can vault this window and make it around for another fast vault on this window. Yes, you can chase them in the other direction then, so to here, but I still mid-vault this. Well, you have to go around this and waste your time, and you will just create a possibility for them to waste your time more efficiently. So, yeah. And what about this one? And this one is equally bad for you, because, again, survivors just get to loop this. And it's much easier to loop this than to loop this, because here they have to go to the left, and you also come through the left, and you get some shortcuts on that. But if you break any of these walls, again, if this wall is not open, then you create trouble yourself. So I would advise against that. So that's pretty much it about this building, I think, I hope. And and the best thing you should remember as a killer, you must break this wall if you want to come to this building at any point, and you will have to come to this building at some point during playing in Autoheaven, because some survivors might be hiding there, they might be slamming that generator, they might be having a good escape option with this window, and unless you break this door, you don't get to threat them any good. And after this wall is broken, and each time you're gonna come to that building, you're gonna have your time wasted, practically no matter what. It's hard to mind game survivors. As a survivor, you should wait at any corner, and if the killer is doing some strange mind game, you can just leave. And mostly this building is very, very good for survivor. A lot of wasting time possibilities, 4 pallets, just way to go, dude. And that's about it about the Autoheaven. And with that, we covered all of the structures and main buildings in Autoheaven, and I hope that this guide will help you to navigate, to understand, and to loop and chase around these buildings better. If you want, you can also check my guides on the general jungle gyms looping and the Macmillan looping and chasing. I'm also going to be working on the Coldwinds farm structures and main buildings. And if you like this video, you can always comment it, like, or subscribe to the channel if you want to see more guides on Dead by Daylight. And that's pretty much it. See you in the next one.